Hey guys, welcome back to the Wellham's World YouTube channel. Today we are back with another tier list. It's day number 21 of the Advent calendar, and this tier list isn't specifically Christmas related. However, I was looking through the Christmas tier lists that were available on Tier Maker, and there weren't any particularly that I was vibing with, so I decided to create my own. We're doing a lot of Pokemon on the channel. I'm playing a lot of Pokemon in general, so I thought, why not do every Ice type Pokemon? That's about as Christmassy as you can get for Pokemon specifically. So we've got 59 Pokemon to look through today. They're in alphabetical order, which definitely doesn't annoy me. They should be in Pokedex order, but I didn't think about that. But on the tiers on the top left, we've got top 5, great, good, meh, and not a fan. It's pretty standard for what I would list as my tier list, tiers. I won't go through everyone initially, but you can see kind of what we're dealing with. We've got a few that are regional forms of Pokemon that aren't initially Ice type. We've got a few that are evolutions. For example, Cloyster becomes Ice and Water, whereas Shellder is just Water, and so on and so forth. So, looking at where to begin, I could begin with not a fan. Smoochum, not a fan. It's the pre-evolution to Jinx, and I'm going to put Jinx in meh because it's just by no means in any way, shape or form my favourite Pokemon at all. Would never really choose to have Jinx in my team, but I just think Smoochum is so much worse. I think it fucking sucks. I really think it's awful. No need for a pre-evolution for Jinx, but to make it that horrendous it's not on. You could have done an evolution of Jinx and made it a little bit more different, but no, they chose to do a pre-evolution and it sucks balls. It's really, really bad. Next, I suppose I'm just trying to look of where I would if there's any that I would can guarantee I know where I would put it, and for me, Seal is the pre-evolution, like the first stage to Dugong. Dugong's the evolution, and it's one of those where Seal is a water type, Dugong is a ice and water type. Same thing as with Cloyster, they're Gen 1 Pokemon where the first evolution was only one type and they got dual typing when they evolved. Which I'll also put Cloyster in good because I like Cloyster. I wouldn't necessarily use him too much because I can think of other water type Pokemon that I'd probably prefer, especially when I was, like, for example, playing Let's Go Eevee and I had Blastoise. But that's not to say that Cloyster's bad, that's just say that Blastoise is the GOAT, and obviously I'm going to put Blastoise in my team. But moving on from that, and I just saw Glaceon, and while not as bad as Smoochum, I'm putting Glaceon in not a fan. It's probably one of the evolutions that I would probably go for the least. I'd choose Jolteon, Vaporeon, Flareon, Leafeon. I'd choose Umbreon, Espeon all over Glaceon. And also the design. Why the fuck has she got bangs? It looks horrendous. I don't think that if you removed like the bangs and the like pigtails or whatever you want to call them, it would be a much nicer design. You could even give it like an ice mane or something. How Flareon has like the mane around it. You could give it an ice mane, but no, not a fan. Glaceon is not for me. Moving on. We're gonna dip our toes into top 5 territory, and I could probably put him at number 1 in terms of my ice Pokemon tier list. Articuno. I'm also going to put Lapras in there as well. Articuno and Lapras absolutely in the top 5. Lapras is sick, but Articuno's the GOAT. He was always my favourite of the legendary birds from the first region. Although saying that, I did like Zapdos a lot. But Articuno and Zapdos were, definitely up there as the top two. And yeah, they're just they're both goats, aren't they? Lapras and Articuno can take their place in the top 5. And I'm looking through, and I'm noticing Arctovish and Arctozolt. Sorry. Now these are from, I believe, Sword and Shield. They're like the fossil Pokemon. They're two of the fossil Pokemon in Sword and Shield. And it was like the whole shtick was that they kind of like mismatched fossils together, which in theory I kind of like the idea of, like, there's always the argument of things were like dinosaurs and skeletons and how dinosaurs look and sound. How do we know that that's what they are? We just relying on experts to say this is a T-Rex bone, this is a T-Rex skeleton, this is what they sounded like, so on and so forth. So this is kind of like the idea of, well, we thought these fossils were meant to go together, but it turns out they aren't. But I like the idea, but the execution's kind of shit. I think Arctovish, meh, but I do not like the design for Arctozolt at all. I think you can get away with that a bit more with it being a fish. I think it doesn't look as horrendous, but this just looks awful. Not for me, and I wouldn't choose to have one in my team at any point ever. I'm going to put Swinub in meh, Piloswine, which is the evolution, in good, and then Mamoswine in great. Swinub, I don't really like Swinub all that much. I don't think he's that great, but he just gets better and better with each evolution. And to be fair, there's the chance that I could move Mamoswine to top 5. There's the chance. Okay, it's not guaranteed, but it's possible. I'm looking at what I've got going on in the rest of the Pokemon down here. I'm looking at Mamoswine. I'm thinking you could make a late break for it, and he does appear in Sword and Shield. And I'm doing a Sword playthrough on my channel on Tuesdays. I'm streaming it, and I'll be honest, I saw a Piloswine and I just completely ignored it. But then when I was doing this, I was reminded of Mamoswine. I was like, holy shit, why did I not go for the Piloswine? So I might go do that. But that's that's another thing. That's another story, I suppose, for another day. And I think I could do the exact same thing with Spheal, Celio, and Walrein. I think it has the same. Like, I'm not really. Spheal is Spheal, right? No one's going to choose to have him in a team. And then in like Gen 1, it was Seal. Or was it? I think it was Gen 1 they were in. I can't remember. Whatever gen they first appeared in, I don't think they had the third evolution initially. I think that came later on. But Walrein's a banger. Walrein is absolutely very cool. So yeah, he goes in great, because I just think that third stage evolution, it's a very nice transition, I think. And looking at the next ones, I'm putting Bergmite in good. I'm putting Avalugg in great because it's just a giant fucking iceberg and it's really cool. But I'm putting Hisuian Avalugg in top 5 because it looks even better. It's rock and ice. It's got like the I don't know if you can see that too well, but it's got like a little on its face. It's got like a hardened rock surface, and I just think it does look better than regular Avalugg. But I do think it is in the top 5 for me. I really like this version of Avalugg as opposed to the regular version. But we are filling up our top 5 quite quickly, and looking at what else we've got, I've got to be a bit more tactical of where I put my Pokemon in, like whether they go into the top 5 or not. To be fair, Galarian Mr. Mime, meh. I don't mind regular Mr. Mime. I quite like Mr. Mime. I think he's a cool Pokemon. I do not like this design at all. I think it's way worse than regular Mr. Mime. And then they're going to go and make it worse by having Mr. Rime, which is an evolution of this Galarian Mr. Mime. But it sucks. It's such a bad design. I hate this design so much. I don't like either of them. really don't. That's all there is to say about it. I'm going to put Regice in meh as well, just because I think, you've got Regirock and Registeel that are better in terms of the Regis, and it doesn't. It's just I guess it's like an iceberg, right? But there's nothing about it that really sort of stands out to me as like that's a cool Pokemon. I think it's there, and I wouldn't choose to have it in my team or anything like that. But we're going to go with Alolan Sandshrew is going to go in Great, and Alolan Sandslash. It could easily go top 5 for me. I'm going to put it in Great, and then I'll think about it a bit more when I'm looking at these other guys, But they could have just gone with, rather than calling it Sandshrew and Sandslash, they could have called it Snowshrew and Snowslash, I guess. But I do really like the design of it just being like covered in an igloo, and then this one becoming more of like an iceberg kind of look with the spikes. I think it's very. That's one of the ones where I think the regional form is like just way better. Although I do really like Sandshrew and Sandslash in the original, I just really like the igloo design. It just tickles that part of the brain, Moving on. Who else do we have? Castform, I think I can put in not a fan. I just would never use Castform ever. And I think I could go for the same with, I'm going to put Vanillite and Vanillash in not a fan. Oh, sorry, it's Vanillish, but I've misspelt that. It's Vanillish. And then I think Vanillux, I'm going to put there. I know when this sort of first came out and this design sort of came out, everyone was like, okay, so this is what Pokemon is now. It's just a fucking ice cream. And I get that. I would never use this Pokemon in my team. I just don't. It's not that great in terms of a design or anything like that. But I like Vanillux a bit more because it kind of, I like the whole, it goes from a soft serve to like a double scoop. That's kind of fun. But other than that, I don't think there's much to it, really. I'm going to put Alolan Vulpix and Alolan Ninetales both in good. I much prefer regular Vulpix and Ninetales, but I don't know if that's just because I prefer fire Pokemon or what, but I still think they're good designs. I think they're good Pokemon. I think it's good. I think Ice is probably the type that I would use the least frequently. Obviously, I had Articuno in my team on my playthrough of Let's Go Eevee. But generally speaking, it probably would be, unless they're like dual types. So Water Ice, or there's a Dragon Ice that's coming up that we're going to be talking about very soon in, Kyurem, I think, is Dragon Ice, but I don't know where I've put him. Baxcalibur is also Dragon Ice. But yeah, just purely ice forms. It's probably the one I would use the least. But there are a few exceptions, obviously, with the top 5. So I'm just looking through and seeing there's the Galarian form of Darumaka, and I'm going to put Darumaka in meh, and I'm actually going to put Darmanitan in not a fan. I don't mind the Galarian Darumaka, and I prefer the design to the normal one. But I think that's fine. It's nothing too egregious, but I just really dislike the big snowball on his head in the Darmanitan evolution. I think original Darmanitan looks a million times better. And there's just something about this that really doesn't vibe with me at all. I like the beard bit, kinda, but the big snowball on the head just does not do it for me whatsoever. I'm not a fan of that at all. But that being said, who should we look at next? I'll look at Snorunt, who I think is in meh, but like the high end of meh. And then I think Glalie, its evolution, is one of those like where you look at them and you think, really, that came from that? Yeah, Snorunt evolves straight into Glalie, and it's pretty wild. But I really like Glalie. I think he's cool. I don't think I'd ever really use him, and I think he is ugly. But I think it's one of those where it's like, it's an ugly Pokemon, but rather than being so ugly, you just don't want to look at it. It's kind of like, it looks cool, but it's still ugly, if that makes sense. Got like I don't know. It's like it looks a bit demonic almost, but it's maybe it's because it kind of, I don't know why, but I'm getting kind of Gengar vibes from it. If you gave him 2 arms and 2 legs, it could be like it could be like a Galarian or a Alolan Gengar or something. Maybe that's why I vibe with it a bit more. But it's still just going good. And then we'll move on to Sneasel, which I think is a really cool designed Pokemon. And then Weavile, which I think also goes up on. Sneasel and Weavile are very cool. There's not much more to say about them because I just like them. I think it's a great design. I like the sort of changes it makes to the second evolution, but I just feel like there could be like one more evolution that makes it like a bit bigger and a bit more, looks a bit more final in terms of its form. But I think generally I do like that design a lot. Where do we go next? I could stick with some that I'm not really a fan of. Cryogonal, not a fan. We can feel this out quite quick actually. Frostlass doesn't do it for me. Actually, you know what? There might not be Crabominable. Not a fan at all. And I think that might be it for not a fan. But I do think Ice-Q goes into meh. And that might also... No, Cubchoo goes into meh as well. I really like Cubchoo, and I like that it's like a polar bear kind of vibe. But it's like the ice snot just really like something off about it for me. The ice snot is weird. If you wanted to call it Cubchoo and make it seem like it's a bear with a cold, just make its nose a bit red. You don't have to do fucking ice snot. That's kind of grim. And then Beartic, which is the evolution, it's better because it doesn't have the ice snot. It has like an ice beard and like ice stomach things that look a bit like, it looks like fluff or fur, but it's like ice. But I prefer the beard sort of look to the ice stalactites than the snot. It's as simple as that. It's not for me. The snot is weird, and I'm gonna put good. Delibird, moving on to good, and also Frost Rotom. I don't really use the Rotoms all that much when I play Pokemon, but I do like the fact it's just a fucking fridge. I just think that's really cool. But Delibird is kind of like the Santa Pokemon, I guess, because it's got like the sack. It's with the colours, with the beard, and it's got like the sack, which obviously would be the present sack if it was Santa. And I'm going to put all 3 forms of Kyurem in great because he's sick. He is just very sick, just not in my top 5. But yeah, still sick. Very, very cool, very cool. And I am now at this point going to move Alolan Sandslash because I'm looking at the rest of them, and there's not 2 Pokemon, or there's not like 5 Pokemon really that go ahead of him. We'll move on to Snover. Had some dealings with Snover in my recent Pokemon Diamond playthrough, and I like Snover. I think I think Abominous Snow is a great one. I just think it loses a little bit of the brown in it. It could be maybe like the legs is like, because I guess it's kind of like a tree or something. It's like that's the design they're going for, like a. So if you did like the legs in brown, it might have made it a bit more like like a transition. But I still think Abominous Snow is a great design. Really like it. And I'm going to do the same thing with Amora, which I think is a good Pokemon, and Aurorus, which I just think is sick. So, we're at this point where I've got all of these guys, which I think, realistically, are going to go in good or great. It's just about whether I think Baxcalibur is cooler than Mamoswine. And I'll be honest, I'm tempted to do that. And Baxcalibur can go into great at the top. And Frigibax, which is the first stage, can go into good. But also Arctibax is the second, like the middle stage evolution, and I think he's great as well. I think they both go into great. It kind of reminds me of like it's a similar vein with like the 3-stage dragons such as Salamence, Garchomp, where they kind of just get better. And then there's Haxorus as well, which is Axew something is a middle stage, which I can't remember the name, and then Haxorus, which they kind of become like a familiar thing in like more recent stages of Pokemon, where there's like a 3-stage dragon, and I think this is one of the better ones. And if I did a tier list on all the 3-stage dragon types, he'd absolutely be in the top 5 because he's really, really, really sick. But just I think with the ice types, I just think these 5 for me are better. Well, at least I prefer them and I'd rather use them. So the remaining ones, I'm going to put Snom, Frosmoth, which is the evolution of Snom, in great. Now I know this is just looks like it just looks very cute, and it kind of looks like it's just like a snow bug, really, isn't it? But I just think it's very. I like kind of like the simplicity of it a little bit. I think a bit more as well, and it's kind of like using that sort of Venomoth and like the sort of that kind of formula, but just switching it up a bit and keeping it a bit simple, which is what I quite like, because you get like some of these ridiculous designs like Cryogon or Mr. Rhyme and these Arctozolts and Crabominable, and even things like, you know, the 3 different forms of Kyurem, and they're quite extravagant and outlandish, and then you just got Snom and Frosmoth, which are cool. Glastriel, which is like an ice horse, I guess. Very cool. Just looks sick as hell. And then you got Shenpao, who's great, and Sotodle and Titan, and I'll whack them both in good. Now I don't know exactly how I would order them step by step. I think the worst one has to be Smoochum. Mr. Rhyme has to be near there. Arctozolt can go down. I think Glaceon can go up, and Frostlass can go up, and I think Vanillite and Vanillush can go down. I think Castform can go down. And I think if we order them, that's how I would order the bottom. Regice can go at the top. Dewgong can go near the top. Arctovish can actually go near the top. Galarian Mr. Mime can go right down to the bottom. So can Ice-Q. Vanillux. Jinx can also go down to there. And I think that's about right. I didn't really talk about Ice-Q that much, but I just think it's a penguin with an ice block on its head, and I don't think there's anything exciting about it or interesting about it really at all. And that's all there is to it. that's. I'm going to put Alolan Ninetales near the top, as well as Glalie. Cloyster's going to stay there. So as is Piloswine. So Titan can come up a bit. And probably Glastrier can actually come up a bit more. And then I think in terms of great, Baxcalibur's up there, Walrein, Avalug's up there. I'm happy with this order. Maybe I'd bring Weavile down. And then bring Frosmoth up. And then the top 5, that's my top 5, and I think that's in order as well. Articuno, Lapras, Hisuian, Avalugg, Alolan Sandslash, and then Mamoswine. That's my list. That's every ice type. I think there's 59 there. If I've missed any, which I don't think I have, then let me know, and I'll, call myself an idiot. That's fine. But if you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. Let me know what your favourite one would be, or your top 5, or anything like that. Always open for discussions and happy to discuss things like that in the comments of these tier lists. And that is the final Christmas Advent Calendar tier list. We're winding down towards the end of this sort of tier list series. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.